That morning, with a camera-ready smile, he handed me a little velvet box. He kissed my cheek without actually looking at me and added, "You'll love it." "Happy birthday, Noel." As he picked up his workout bag, I opened it. There was a silk scarf inside. The edge is embroidered with a beautiful pattern in a midnight blue color that is as light as breath. It was lovely. However, not me, I whispered. "I thought you detested scarves." He hesitated too long, half a second. "When you were in law school, you wore them. I wanted to remind you about that girl." Then he left the house. With the scarf wrapped around my fingers, I reflected that the girl was buried beneath 2 children, 18 years of marriage, and a husband who had been working late every Thursday for the previous 8 months. In every manner that mattered, it was just another typical morning. On his way out the door, my son Zach gave a drowsy, happy birthday grunt. My daughter Lacey sent me a cupcake emoji after leaving early to prepare for the SAT, holding the scarf as if it were whispering. I stood in the kitchen, getting Lacey's dancing costume fixed, finding a plumber, and adjusting our joint checking account after my husband Jared accidentally charged a $430 supper to it, were all part of the hectic week leading up to my 42nd birthday. It was for a client meeting, he said. Claimed to be coaching one of his colleagues. I trusted him, until I didn't. A few months ago, something began to change. Then Jared began to tell his jokes. He no longer praised my cuisine. When I reached for his hand, he would recoil. And Thursday nights always. Thursday nights became this hazy haze of late calls with West Coast investors and strategy reviews. He wasn't aloof exactly. He had turned into a surgically agreeable person. It would be like someone imitating a husband rather than being one. But the scarf. The pricey, unwanted scarf. As I waited for the delivery of goods that afternoon, I noticed the receipt peeking out of his gym bag, which he had grabbed earlier in the day. I wasn't spying. He frequently borrowed my phone charger, which I was trying to find. Neiman Marcus. 2 scarves of silk. Identical design. Various hues. Same deal. I'll take one. One for another person. Suddenly the weight in my chest changed. It remained. It rearranged itself. I placed the scarf on the bureau in my bedroom, which is our bedroom, after carrying it upstairs. It didn't smell like his fragrance. And it wasn't mine. Flowery synthetic. Nice. I went inside his closet. At that point, I realized the suit jacket was gone. His navy one. The one he wore exclusively to formal occasions and company meetings. An inappropriate suit for the gym. Suddenly, I recognized the day. Thursday. It was, of course. He returned home whistling that evening. Like a man who hadn't just given his wife a velvet box full of lies. Like a man who was unaware that his time was running out. He gave me a forehead kiss without realizing that I hadn't returned the kiss. He informed me that he had a conference call and had to get up early. I advised him to get enough sleep. I then spent hours lying awake, not in tears, not coming apart. Simply figuring. Because if there's one thing I've learned from the woman I was in law school, with the one he feigned to remember, it's that you don't get angry with a man like Jared. You use facts to disprove him. Additionally, facts. Those were going to be my new language of love. With a thump in my chest, Friday morning finally arrived. As usual, Jared left before daylight. I also feigned to be asleep as usual. He was unaware that the scarf was gone from the dresser. He was unaware that I had ceased inquiring about his Thursdays. I didn't go up to him, not quite yet. Confrontation allows the guilty to change the narrative. I had no interest in conversation. I wanted to be sure. Lacey contacted me at noon. Dad mentioned that we would be spending spring break in Lake Arrowhead. What time did that occur? We weren't. Not together anyhow. There was no mention of a trip from Jared. Lately he hadn't said anything. Our honeymoon was at Lake Arrowhead. A lakeside cabin. It was his kind of magic, he used to say. And now, without telling me, he was organizing a vacation with our children. After tapping out a response, my fingers paused. Like a lot of queries I've recently swallowed, I let the message remain unsent. Rather, I entered his office. With the picture of us on our 10th anniversary, the framed diplomas and the handcrafted wood desk, Jared's home office was his domain. Paris. In the picture, I appeared happier than I recalled. I pulled open the bottom drawer, empty. It was odd. It was where he stored his travel folders, confirmations of flights, receipts for rentals. He used to lament his compulsive printing of everything because digital backups fail. Where had the paper trail disappeared to the electronic one hadn't? He constantly forgot that our family iPad was linked to our shared iCloud account, so I signed in. I found screenshots in a matter of seconds. Flights to San Diego were booked. Reservations at a resort on the beach. Listed guests include Jared Mercer, Mercer Lacey, Mercer Zach, Mercer Noel, not present. In 2 weeks, the date is set over the children's spring vacation. He had no intention of taking the kids on a trip. He had one planned without my presence. Similar to Thursday nights, he was constructing a narrative of our family that excluded me. As I scrolled through the hotel details, my heartbeat pounded in my ears. 2 chambers, 1 suite for kings. A single double queen. In his name, the King Suite C is the booking number for the second. Whitmore. I blinked. That was a name I recognized. Whitmore, Clarissa. Jared's helper, polished, 29. She was the type of woman who, whenever she laughed, found an excuse to touch his shoulder. The type of woman who once wrote, "Some sunsets are worth lying for," as the description for a beach photo. Clarissa Whitmore, the extra scarf. Naturally. I rose and made my way to the closet. I unzipped the side pocket of my travel bag after pulling it down. Last autumn, I discovered a strange lipstick stain there and persuaded myself it was caused by saying goodbye to a friend. I now discovered a pair of sunglasses there. Too big. Creator. Not mine. My hands ceased to tremble. A cold has crept in. He was working during the day. An erasure, not only an affair, not a drama. Avoid fights, just a silent breakdown of who I am. Zach brought a homemade card for my birthday home that afternoon. Crayon illustrations. "You're my anchor, Mom," the note said. More than anything Jared had done, it destroyed me. I tried to hide the storm in my chest by hugging him for too long. I then opened Jared's laptop while he was playing in the backyard. My birthday is still the password. He never bothered to change the 4 digits, an old-fashioned haughtiness. I discovered a spreadsheet called Q2 Client Expenses in his Downloads folder, but it had nothing to do with clients. Weeks were used to label the tabs. I discovered the following notes inside: Flight LAX to SD Clarissa. Update, kids say the trip is for bonding. Surprise gift pickup bracelet, Jared gift account. Dinner, our Loma Clarissa wine. He had a strategy. He had a term for it. Lines of the budget. Plan. My trust has been turned into a schedule by him. I stood at the doorway and watched him breathe that night while he slept. I had stopped searching for guilt. I was taking stock of my husband and the stranger he had turned into. I opened a new notebook at 2 in the morning. I clipped the scarf to the cover, a ribbon, just a friendly reminder. Facts first was the only sentence I wrote. Feelings afterwards. I then created a list: verify bank accounts. Call your pal from the legal firm, Lexi, Clarissa, locate your employment file. Thursday, video iPad monitoring, legal review of the vacation fund, because this was no longer heartbreak. This was a tactic. Silence and oatmeal marked the beginning of Monday morning. As usual, Jared was already gone. Zach was watching cartoons and Lacey was wearing headphones. I needed to get some work done. I arrived at the public library by 8:30 a.m. to use the printer and guest Wi-Fi, not to check out books. Jared believed I had no idea how to dig. He didn't remember that I worked in corporate law for 6 years before deciding to devote myself full-time to raising our kids. He would allow the truth to fester in the open. I began by going over the bank statements. Last year, Jared had demanded that we streamline our finances by switching to his private advisor, claiming that this would save me the stress. I could still access it, though. That had not been altered by him. From Thursday meals to hotel reservations within our city and wire transfers referred to as consultant bonuses, a trend became apparent. Although Clarissa's name was never mentioned, her fingerprints were found all over the place: a day spa with an appointment date that coincided with a day Jared claimed to be in Dallas restaurants she had mentioned in passing, and a store I remembered her raving about at last year's Christmas party. He hadn't even made an effort to hide his path. Men who believe that loyalty entails forgetfulness are arrogant. Every statement was printed by me, underlined, noted. The office comes next. It needed skill to do that. Although she was managed by a third-party administrative agency, Clarissa was a contractor and not formally under HR. This implied that copies of her contract were available online. I sent a message to Lexi, a former law school classmate who works in HR compliance. I need assistance retrieving the badge activity and profile of a temporary assistant. Rest assured this is lawful and intimate. In less than an hour, she responded with the information I required. According to Clarissa's badge data, she had entered Jared's building 14 times in a row on Thursdays after 7 p.m. Stay for at least 2 hours every time. I compared that to the reporting on expenses. It was almost a perfect overlap. Dinners, wine rooms in hotels. The last component then arrived. There were cameras in Jared's office building. I was aware of this, as I had assisted in negotiating the conditions of the lease when he originally became a partner. Tenants had the right to view the video if there was any suspicion of wrongdoing. After 5 minutes of courteous legal faking, I was able to get confirmation from the building's management that internal camera footage was kept off-site and that they could disclose it upon written request, which I forwarded. I looked back at the scarf as I waited, still folded perfectly, unused. I took out my notebook and set it next to the mounting evidence. Jared returned home humming that evening. "Do kids want Thai food?" His keys jingled as he asked. Absently, I nodded. "That sounds good." My PC was open to the camera timestamp request, but he didn't see it. I was unaware that my hands had stopped shaking. I wondered how many different versions of me he had created in his head as I observed him from the other side of the room. The submissive spouse. The lady who refused to notice. The unseen. However, I was the one who counted. The video came by Thursday. Password protected, time stamped. I bided my time till the house was deserted. Clarissa showed up there at 7:14 p.m., carrying a bottle of wine and a tote bag as she walked confidently past reception. She entered Jared's private office via a scan. Jared came 10 minutes later. He secured the door. The lights dimmed as I watched the chronology scroll. 7:30, 8:00, and 8:17. There was no work done, no files were opened, just hands. Just proximity, just two people in the dark laughing like teenagers. I refrained from crying. I downloaded the video. Put a label on it, compared to the bank charges. Dates and times are highlighted. Then the unexpected turn of events occurred. Last fall, Clarissa was paired with Jared due to an urgent staffing need. That need it was buried after his former assistant filed a silent HR complaint for inappropriate boundary violations. It never got out of hand. However, it did exist. Lexi attested to it. Jared had a past, history that is hidden. He wasn't merely unfaithful to me, he was a liability. I was aware of where to take that. My case file was finished by Friday. Late-night submissions have been confirmed. 9 dinners were recorded as client entertainment. A favor buried 1 HR complaint. 1 movie file that was inaccessible to everybody. I had no intention of starting a fight. I had a demolition planned. I wouldn't start with Jared, but with the business that gave him the promotion. I bided my time until Tuesday. Every Tuesday at 9:00 a.m., Jared's company, Caldwell Stratton Equity, had its senior leadership meetings. Cell phones are not permitted, no laptops. Raymond Caldwell, a founding partner who once shook my hand and remarked, "A good reputation is worth more than $1 billion under management," enforced the old-fashioned protocol. It was time to put that reputation to the test. The email was sent at 8:57 a.m. Line of subject, urgent conduct violation. Ethics complaint against Mr. Jared Mercer. Raymond Caldwell, the whole board of directors, the compliance director, and the legal counsel were the recipients. Attachments include a statement of context, time-stamped stamped video annotated bank documents, and a scanned copy of the former assistant's buried HR complaint, which was legally cited but anonymously sourced. I kept an eye on the clock. 9:00. No read receipts at 9:02. 6 opens at 9:19. 10 downloads at 9:23.9. 31 initial response. Please verify the footage's source. Noted is the desire for confidentiality. An immediate review is underway. My phone buzzed at 9:46. Another alert, this time from the security system in Jared's workplace. The badge has been deactivated due to an unauthorized attempt to access Level 4. Seconds thereafter, a barrage of desperate messages appeared. What the devil did you just do? Jared. Now respond to me. Jared. This isn't funny, Noelle. Jared, I've been led away. How could you have sent them? I didn't respond. I just opened my notepad and scribbled 9:46 a.m. across the bottom of the page. Control came back. My buddy Lexi, a lawyer, contacted me at 11:15. I just heard. Caldwell's internal lockdown. The whole department of Jared is frozen. You created a stir. I grinned. I then disabled notifications. I prepared my kids' favorite supper that night, which was roasted chicken buttered corn and honey cornbread, which Jared always referred to as too heavy. There was silence in the house. Secure. Right up till the doorbell rang. Lacey pulled it open. Tensed, her voice drifted back. Dad. Using a towel to wipe my hands, I left the kitchen. He was standing there with his briefcase in hand, red-eyed and disheveled. Why are you in this place? Calmly, I asked. He growled. You ruined my life. No, you did, I replied. I simply ceased shielding you from it. Startled, Lacey took a step back. Zach's eyes were wide as he peered down from the stairs. I must speak with the children, Jared replied, his voice breaking. Not here, I replied. Not right now. Not until I tell them that their father's inability to keep his pants zipped was the reason their family's trip was called off. You're inciting them to oppose me. I'm revealing the truth to them. He gritted his teeth. Give me access. I stepped in front of the door and said no. Your key is no longer functional. I gave him the box in that point. A plain cardboard box. Within his timepieces, a framed picture of him with the children. The scarf he didn't intend for me. Additionally, there was a single sheet of paper, a letter from my lawyer. Filing before a divorce. Notification of asset freezing. I remarked, You planned a life without me. I'm giving you what you requested now. Liberty. Not the type you get to enjoy, though. He glanced at the children. I responded firmly, Don't. You've previously used them. You're not allowed to do that again. With something in her grasp, Lacey took a step forward. Her mobile phone. Open to a post on social media. Clarissa. A picture from 2 weeks ago of Jared's arm around her. You misled me, she said. You claimed she was merely your helper. Jared lowered his shoulders. With wide eyes and a low voice, Zach asked him, Did you take her to Arrowhead quiet? I responded on his behalf. Yes. And something in the air cracked in the ensuing hush. Without saying another thing, Jared turned. I shut the door after him. I then turned to face my kids and uttered the one thing that was important. I refuse to allow this to ruin us. After we grieve it, we will mature. I tucked Zach in later that evening. Lingering in the doorway was Lacey. She gave me a hesitant glance. Are you all right? I inhaled. No, however, I'm making progress. Was the scarf the cause? She inquired. How did you find out? I gave a soft smile. It was the thing that the scarf omitted. It wasn't said that he no longer knew me. Jared signed the documents 6 weeks after the altercation. No courtroom in the public eye. 2 groups of lawyers, a sterile conference room, and a notary, who avoided making eye contact. He glanced, reduced. Thinner and gray at the edges, resembling someone who has been in someone else's storm for too long. Are you serious about doing this with his pen poised? He asked softly. I answered, I'm not the one who started it. I am the only one who has completed it. He put his signature there. I took the last packet from his lawyer. I didn't wince. The terms were unambiguous. Physical custody of Zach and Lacey in their entirety. The residence was still registered in my name. I didn't want any of his sympathy, so I refused to pay alimony. Court-mandated child support that is reviewed every 3 months. Regarding workplace behavior, the mutual NDA is his concession, not mine. I walked away without turning around. The scarf remained in my lawyer's evidence box, cataloged with timings, video, and receipts. The thing that started it all. However, it was no longer a weapon I needed. Time to put it to new use. I went to see Mrs. Huang, a neighborhood seamstress who once made Lacey's recital gowns. I requested that she make a tiny keepsake pouch out of the scarf. Something useful. Keep quiet. Mine. A new journal was now inside, one devoid of annotated lies and crossed-out names. Routines were the first step in my recovery. Mornings without a rush and with good coffee. Zach walks on his scooter around the street. Evenings when Lacey performed music from her bedroom. She was less hesitant to occupy space and was now louder. We ceased our tiptoeing. We had a conversation. At last, Lacey posed the query she had been suppressing. Was he ever in love with you? I took a while to respond. Eventually, I answered, I think he loved the idea of me, the version that remained unchanged and stagnant. However, I grew out of the box he placed me in. Perhaps he needed someone smaller because of that, Zach remarked in his quiet wisdom. Then it dawned on me that my kids weren't merely observing me rebuild. They were being taught not to settle for less than they were due. We created new memories. I went to the seashore with Lacey for a weekend road trip. The radio, too many stops for pastries, and just the two of us. I began planting a vegetable garden with Zach. He gave the tomato plants superhero names. We started holding truth dinners on Sunday nights when there were no phones and only candid conversation. On certain evenings, we shed tears. On certain evenings, we chuckled. We healed each night. Counseling was beneficial, separately and collectively. We were first introduced to the concept of emotional real estate by our psychotherapist, Dr. Marin. What aspects of yourself did you sacrifice without doing anything in one session, she inquired. And how can you get them back? I considered going to law school. I declined the gallery display. In 2011, I left the manuscript partially completed. 2 weeks later, I signed up for a part-time online creative law seminar, just to flex that area of myself once more. The scarf pouch was quietly nodding next to my laptop. To what I had survived, not to the treachery, I got a letter one day from Caldwell Stratton Equity, not Jared. A brand new ethics commission was being established. In his own words, Raymond Caldwell wrote, "We think you are the best person to comprehend the human cost of wrongdoing. The door is open if you ever want to inform us formally or informally." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. However, I hung the letter next to my desk after framing it, not as a medal, as a line, just a friendly reminder. Summer dissolved into spring, and as I woke up on my 43rd birthday, I heard laughter coming from downstairs, the aroma of pancakes. Lacey had stayed up to use paper stars and old photo prints as decorations. I was given a card from Zach that said, "You were always the one with strength, Mom." We simply had to witness it firsthand. I covered myself with a shawl and went outside by myself later that night. Jared wanted to cut down the maple tree in our yard years ago, and I was standing underneath it. Too many leaves fell, he claimed. It remained upright. I'm still leafing. Continued to grow. I did too. I took out my journal and made one last note beneath the scarf pouch that was clipped. Quietly, he attempted to replace me. Loudly, I replaced myself. I also got to know the woman I was always destined to be.